like he wasn't even developed all the way.
Of all the money that e'er I spent it in good company.
Good God, my top 5 Dead MMO video hit 1 million views last week. That is mind-blowing. It's one of my worst videos and it's one of the older ones, and it shows. But because it hit 1 million views, and because I went on a trip last week and I didn't have time to do a proper Judge Mathas, I figured we'd combine celebration with practicality. Now, there was a big complaint on my last video about Dead MMOs, and it was that a couple of them on there were not really dead per se, and more free to play with a small community. So I figured we'd do another top 5 Dead MMO video, but with the stipulation that every one of these on this list is officially closed. And I'm not talking about fan servers or emulations, I'm talking the official game itself was brought down by its company. So let's dive into more nostalgia and relive some of the great and horrible memories that these MMOs brought about in their heyday. Final Fantasy XI was an MMO that hit 2 whole years before World of Warcraft would change the landscape of the MMORPG world. It was difficult and punishing, complicated and intricate, and was one of the few MMOs out there that had decided to tell a story that would come with sweeping changes to its world in the process of telling it. And it had, above all else, found a very dedicated and loyal fan base through the years of its existence. So, when 2009 had rolled around and Final Fantasy XIV had been announced, the fans, of course, rejoiced. Final Fantasy XI had not aged all that well, and a new coat of paint with new and refined mechanics, while still maintaining what people loved about Final Fantasy XI with its class system flexibility, crafting, and more, myself included, were drooling. It would also be a lot of Final Fantasy fans' first foray into the MMO world, so Final Fantasy XIV needed to be good. Really good. And to put icing on the cake, the then CEO of Square Enix had said it was being designed to take on the monolith that was World of Warcraft. Alphas came and went, delayed betas happened, and finally, on September 30th, 2010, Final Fantasy XIV was unleashed to its ravenous fans. That wasn't what we expected now, was it? Oh, what a mess Final Fantasy XIV was on launch. It came out to mostly negative reviews that said they could see the gorgeous world and adventures before them, but the UI itself was such a goddamn disaster that playing the game was a chore. The combat, which had been a major selling point for the game, was nothing short of terrible and buggy, and speaking of bugs, the game was full of them. The game was nothing short of, at the very least, incomplete. It was such a disaster that the entire development team was swapped and changed. The first 30 days being free was made into 90, and at long last, the game was no longer for sale and put back into development under new leadership. Something I had never seen before with an MMO. In fact, when it finally relaunched in 2012, the entire original world of Final Fantasy XIV was destroyed and reborn to the great game that it was today, officially putting into Final Fantasy XIV lore the original world's disastrous launch and the world's monumentous end. Planetside was a game I was absolute trash at, but I continued to play because despite it all, I loved the concept and combat. A huge world, 3 warring factions playing a major never-ending tug-of-war for territory and resources, multitude of classes from frontline soldiers to faraway snipers to medics to pilots. If Planetside did one thing right, it was the breadth of options it gave the player. I think Planetside was the first game that showed me that support classes could be fun. After learning what potato aim I had as a young teen, not that my shooting is any better, I put my gun aside and took up piloting. Specifically piloting the Galaxy-class ship, a huge transport ship I could take friends and strangers on and airdrop them into the heat of battle. Having other fighter pilots fly beside me to keep the ship safe, engaging in dogfights, and paying the ultimate price with their life as I flew over the hot zone and watched all the soldiers airdrop from my ship was a thrill I never got bored of. And damn, I'm getting excited thinking about it right now. And while one could argue that Planetside was never a true quote-unquote MMO in the purest sense, I played it like one, and I loved it. Its closure was all but inevitable when Planetside 2 had come around, and for some reason, the sequel just didn't hook me nearly as hard as the first one did. It was missing features that the first game had, and maybe the thrill of all these huge battles had been lost on me over the years, as I'd played so many different Battlefield-style games. But the memories I have of Planetside 1 will always bring a smile to my dumb 30-year-old face. Oh, Sony Online Entertainment. You certainly loaded your gun with every MMO idea in existence and fired it off rapidly like a teenage boy discovering masturbation for the first time back in the early 2000s, didn't you? I can't sneeze without hitting one of your flubbed and failed MMOs when doing a list like this. This one in particular garnered some excellent awards too on its launch, like Most Desolate, Least Fun, Lamest Launch, and the one that nails it all down? Biggest Disappointment. Of course, I'm talking about Vanguard Saga of Heroes. I may have been swimming in MMOs back in the day, and some of those don't tend to stick out very well in the sea of mediocrity that the genre became, but even I remember the huge excitement surrounding Vanguard. Developers of the original EverQuest had come on board, Unreal Engine 2 was being used, a seamless world with no load times, flying mounts, which was still very exciting at the time. So much potential. But SOE had to go and flub it all up as always. Sigil had been the development team behind the game, initially partnering up with Microsoft during its early stages of development from 2002 to 2004. Then Sigil would snag all rights back from Microsoft and partner up with Sony Online Entertainment for the rest of development. A few years later, it was announced that SOE bought out Sigil and maintained all rights to Vanguard. And with the game changing hands and ownership so often, it wasn't terribly surprising that things went awfully awry rather quickly. But more telling is the game's budget, which was eventually leaked in being a mere $30 million, which, for the scale that they had hoped that the game would become, isn't nearly enough. Mismanagement, mishandling, and shattered dreams. The Sony Online Entertainment story in a nutshell. This next game isn't a tale of mismanagement, botched development, or Sony Online. Instead, this one is about a long-running game that was one of the great innovators of the genre. Asherons Call, while by today's standards does nothing new, everything it did back in 1999 was new and incredibly exciting. One of the first MMOs to have a seamless world with no loading times in itself is a huge accomplishment, but it also maintained monthly updates with new content, huge in-game world events, narrative-driven missions and quests that visually affect the world. It was also punishing, and death had meaning. If you died, you'd lose half of the money you were holding, and part of your constitution which dictated your health, and potentially some of your items. It meant you needed to explore carefully, play smart, respect the world and the players in the area. This is the kind of thing I still pine for in my MMOs nowadays, as death has almost no meaning, and only some continue to do so. Asherons Call also stands as a big regret for me. One of the few MMOs I never tried out or put proper time into, and from everything I've seen and read, it was right up my alley. The final 2 years of the game were its quietest yet, with development all having but ceased, and communication between developers and the community basically non-existent, and the community itself down to just a few thousand players. But those who played loved the game and the world, until the game shut down unceremonially on January 31st, 2017. There was no endgame event, no world-ending monster destroying the players. Players just quietly were disconnected, and that was the end of Asherons Call. The number one spots on these lists tend to be reserved for something I loved a whole heck of a lot. And that is clearly still very much in play here. City of Heroes, and to a lesser extent City of Villains, was the MMO that tapped deeply into my childhood dream of being a superhero, saving the day for ordinary citizens and fighting back the menace of evildoers. It seems like such an obvious choice for an MMO, and it's truly only ever been done right once, though attempted a few times by different companies. While the combat system itself may have been typical tab targeting, say that 3 times fast, everything about this game tried to do things differently. There were no mounts. You were a superhero, damn it, you flew, or you had super speed, or you could teleport. Customization was incredibly flexible, allowing you to create your own Wolverine-looking ripoff or Hulk-looking character. And as varied as the character creation was, the powers themselves were also wide, versatile, and really fun. You could live out your personal superhero fantasy, from being an up-close brawler with super strength to distant fighter with laser beam eyes, or become a psychic powerhouse throwing enemies up and down around the map and controlling them at your mind's will. The game also had its fair share of world events, alien invasions, and eventual supervillain themed expansion pack, bringing in the PvP people were clamoring for. And eventually you could even have your own superhero city hall or evil lair as a supervillain. And yes, I recognize the game was grindy, could get repetitive, and didn't age terribly well over the years, but the novelty and creative effort put into City of Heroes for its time was still something we really don't see nowadays. I want another superhero themed MMO, damn it. Fly that flag high, statesman. At least we'll have you in Master X Master. Man, those games brought back some fantastic memories, and a little bit of jealousy that I didn't get to play all of the ones that were on the list, but still, the #1 City of Heroes, man, so many hours were sunk into that game, and I miss it dearly, and I would love to see a superhero MMO come back in a more action-packed way. Yeah, sure, DC Universe Online exists, but I want to see something newer, with better tech, better graphics, and maybe Marvel. That'd be pretty sweet. So my question to you is pretty simple, and it might be the one I asked you last time in a video like this. What is your favorite MMO, dead or alive? What would you like to see come back, or what MMOs around now that you just can't get enough of? There are just so many that have come and gone. As I was going through the list of games that I played or games that I knew about, I hit hundreds of other MMOs that kind of just were flashes in the pan, things that were around for like a month and then dead within the year, which is kind of crazy. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The next one should be good. I have a bunch of game ideas and I've been going through a lot of different ones. I'm not going to spoil what I'm going to do yet, but it should be fun. Also, as a quick announcement, at the very beginning of this video, I said I was gone on a trip. I was off doing MXM, which is NCSoft's new MOBA-esque game. They flew me out to play in a tournament, it was a paid promotion thing, and they're paying me to do a video on their game. That'll be here on the Judge Mathas channel. Now I'm telling you now, so you guys don't think that I'm going to end up replacing a Judge Mathas video with a paid promotion video. It's not gonna happen. What's gonna end up happening is the video that I'm getting paid to do will be taking place in between proper Judge Mathases. There will not be an interruption to the Judge Mathas schedule. There'll just be an extra video for you guys to check out, and it will be clearly marked as sponsored so you guys know what it's all about. And it won't be a review or anything like that. It is just I'm not going to spoil it. I have some great ideas for the video and it should be hilarious. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. Let's just say there's a costume involved and it's on the way to my apartment as we speak. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for 1 million views on the first one from 9 months ago. That blows my mind. And I look forward to bringing you guys more fun content in the weeks ahead. Have a safe and fun day, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to watch more Judge Mathas, click on this link right here to watch the latest one that I did on Nox. Or if you want to watch the first top 5 Dead MMO video I did, the link will be right here. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you are subscribed, don't forget to hit that bell, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.